Hey, good morning. It's me. I'm Rob, that developer dad. And it's Monday, June the 24th, and we're going to continue working on my website, www.thatdeveloperdad.com. Before we dive into the AstroJS tutorial that we're using to build it out, let's do a short recap of what all we managed to accomplish last week. So Wednesday morning, I did my first stream ever, and I didn't turn on the video on demand. So unfortunately, I was unable to archive that stream over to YouTube, and I'm really sad about that because that's where we actually did the AstroJS scaffolding, and we set up the CI/CD pipeline so that when I do the pull request and merge into main on my GitHub repository, it automatically deploys over to the website. That afternoon, we started adding some pages to it and a little bit of just sort of placeholder content. Thursday, we added some slug blog article placeholder type things and got those added to an articles page, and then we started working on styling in the afternoon. On Friday morning, we got the styling that we applied on the About page to apply site-wide, and we started working on modularizing things like the footer for the website and making the header with all the navigation links into a component and making that responsive so that it would look half decent on mobile devices. I did get the Apple device simulator. I don't want to use the iPad. Let's bring up the iPhone. I guess we'll just load the iPhone 15 simulator for now. And that's going to take a minute because it has to go through its whole boot up and all of that good stuff. Oh, here it is. It's a whole lot faster this morning than it was on Friday afternoon when I got it installed. Let's go ahead and open the Safari browser. And it's already loading to the deployed version of the website. We can see that our hamburger menu is functioning. And here's our About page. So it doesn't look quite like a Times New Roman train wreck anymore. Now to scroll on this iOS simulator, I do need to grab and drag with the mouse, which is interesting because it actually simulates using your thumb. And I'll share that screen right now. So today, before I share the screen and show what the simulator looks like, we're going to continue working on making the website more modular. And we're going to be getting into actually creating page layouts so that we're not needlessly having to copy and paste and retype the same stuff every time we add a new page to the website. Hopefully we'll also get into adding some common layout around some of these articles, but because the articles are using Markdown that gets automatically translated into HTML at build time and blah, blah, blah stuff, we're going to probably run into doing that a little later in the tutorial flow itself. Again, we're using the Build-A-Blog tutorial. That's at astro.build. I am not affiliated with astro.build. I am just using their framework because somebody on LinkedIn recommended that I give it a shot for building a static website. That Developer Dad is hosted as a Azure static website on Microsoft Azure, of course. I'm using the free tier, and I'm using the static website because A, I don't need to run any C# or ASP code in the background, and B, with the free tier of the static websites, I can actually connect a custom domain to that website and serve that developerdad.com through there. So I'm going to flip over to use my screen share with my ugly mug down in the corner. There we are. Here's the simulator. I can scroll up and down with it. It behaves kind of like an iPhone. I don't have an Android emulator, probably because Apple doesn't publish those, and that's okay. But this gives us a pretty good view of what the site is going to look like on a regular iPhone 15. And here's the hamburger menu, fully responsive. Now, this session stand-ups in the background, that's running on localhost. This is actually being served from the website. I never did get around to figuring out how to get Node applications to serve to my local area network, because I did get this this device simulator up and running successfully on Friday. So let's dive in. First thing we need is our Finder window. And we'll go to my code folder. Here's that developer dad. We need a new terminal. We'll open VS Code here. Here it comes. Hello there. We'll open our terminal again. And we are going to say npm dev run engage. Oh, I did it wrong. npm run dev. I don't do a lot with the terminal. I'm very much used to full Visual Studio running on Windows, and it's like right-click, debug, start new instance, or just hit the play button or whatever from right inside the IDE. But it seems that everything old is new again, and the modern way of developing web applications involves heavy use of the terminal, and it's an interesting choice. It's not the UX that I would choose, but it's the UX we have. And of course, I've got my friend Copilot down here in the bottom. Copilot answers lots and lots of questions for me. I make heavy use of it, even more so than Google anymore. Microsoft won this round, guys. I'm sorry. All right. So before we dive into the code, I have some notes to myself of things that I wanted to talk about. Last week, while we were working through the tutorials, we started off manually adding these page elements to our site. I'll load that up right here. Like we had our menu bar up here. I got to do some stuff about the styling here. This is untenable. But we had to add these links to every page. And I have my footer down here. I had to add those to every page. And it's fine when there's 3 pages in the site. It's not going to be fine when there's a lot more pages on the site, having to copy and paste that stuff around. I also realized after I added the components for the navigation and the footer and the socials and all of that stuff, that those could be further componentized. But I also realized that I was adding the same stuff every time I was adding a new page. And I had hoped that we'd be getting to a place in the tutorials where we would kind of make a layout or a template or something like that for new pages. And lo and behold, that is in fact the next unit in the tutorial. This modularization is an aspect of software development that you are going to run into no matter what development context you're in, whether you're in the front end, the back end, the database, API layers, whatever. Our goal is to always make sure that we're reducing the number of times we're repeating ourselves for the same reason. And that's some of you may already be familiar with solid design principles. D stands for DRY, don't repeat yourself. And there's been a lot of discussion around don't repeat yourself on LinkedIn the past 3 or 4 days amongst the developer community. And sometimes frequently when you're just learning about solid principles, it's really easy to take the don't repeat yourself idea way, way, way too far. And you end up creating a shared module that is actually used differently or does need to change for different reasons depending on how one of the pieces of your code base is using that shared module. And when you run into that, that means that you're repeating yourself, but it's for a different reason or there's a different usage context. And as we go through these discussions and this exercise, we're gonna run into places where the code or the module may look very similar to code or a module that's used elsewhere in our applications that it does have a different context for how that module is being used. And that different context has a material difference on how we call into the module or what we expect the module to do. And even though the code may look similar, we haven't repeated ourselves because it's that surrounding context that makes the difference. You're going to run into that idea a lot in software engineering as well. There's a lot of work that goes in through your fingers, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of work goes up here, and you constantly need to be analyzing what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then you can worry about how. Let's get into the tutorial. So we've built our hamburger component, and now we'll go to Unit 4 Layouts. We are going to create reusable layout components. We're going to pass content to these layouts with a slot element, which I've not run into in HTML5. This must be an AstroJS thing. We're going to pass data from Markdown front matter to our elements, and we're going to nest multiple layouts. Okay, now we're getting into some serious componentization. And as we do this, we need to keep in mind context matters. I am ready to take my page design to the next level with layouts. I feel like there should be some music. All right, let's build our first layout. Refactor common elements into a page layout. Use an Astro slot element to place page contents within a layout. Pass page specific values as props to its layout. Now, earlier in this tutorial, they did some parameterization of the components that they were building, and they did one just as an example. I skipped over it because I didn't want to add that to my live website yet. So we might have to page back and review exactly what they did and the syntax around doing that when we get to that part. So, first thing we're going to do. They say right here, just like I said in our preamble, that we still have some Astro components repeatedly rendered on every page. It's time to refactor again to create a shared page layout. Let's do that. So first thing we have to do is create a new folder in our project structure. So I'm going to close components up here, pages, scripts, styles. So everything in this source folder is what gets compiled into. There's a .dist hidden folder somewhere in here, or that gets created during the build script. But let's pop back. And where do we put this? We put the layouts folder right inside our source folder. So, new folder. layouts. Boop. You got to make the sound effects. If you don't make the sound effects, it doesn't work. And then we're going to create a base layout.astro. And I am a really bad typing person. I'm not good at it. I have big, fat, chunky bass player fingers, and I mistype a lot of things, and it's no fun for you guys to sit here and watch me type. So I'm gonna do something that I don't normally like doing, and I'm gonna engage in a lot of copying and pasting as we work through more of this exercise. And gosh, I dove right in. I did the verbal recap, and I did not update my daily scrum. Hey Jeremy, how's it going? I have been doing pretty okay. I hope you're doing as well. We have a chatter. And let's see here. Goal for the next session, get the navigation component styles responsive. Dunzo. Okay. I want to very quickly divert June 24th morning session. Recap last week's wins and last week's oopsies, which we did. Header level 3. Today, this morning, we want to learn about page layouts in AstroJS so that we can reduce the number of times we repeat ourselves for the same reason. And I can get rid of some of this excess white space. Save that. Come over and take a look, make sure we got it. We did not. I goofed something up. Oh, you know what? I bet I need to refresh to reconnect to the hot reload server. Groovy. There we go. All right. Oh no. Well, Jeremy, get your foot up, get some rest, ice, compression, and elevation on it, and hang out, man. I've got another 40 minutes on this morning's stream. I don't currently have any calls or meetings for the 1 o'clock time slot, so I will be back this afternoon for an hour, and then I have some interview activities after that, so that hopefully somebody will start to give me money on a regular basis again in return for my hours. All right. So we're building the base layout. It says copy the entire contents of index.astro into your new file, baselayout.astro. All right. We're going to need index. And I'm going to send session standup away. Global CSS, you're going to hang out to the left there because I feel like we're going to be revisiting you. And select all, copy, paste. All right. We have got all of our stuff. Excuse me. Step 2. Where'd you go? Here we are. All right. We're going to use my layout on a page. I feel like I'm missing something. Okay. H1 page title. Title, page title, H1 page title, header. Yeah. All right. Okay. So we've got this. I'm just making sure I've got the instructions down first. And then I'm going to come in here. Okay, I've got all the content for index.astro backed up. Let's go ahead and break this stuff. I can always do a git undo on these files. If I make a mess of something, it'll be fine. So we're going to import base layout. And we're going to get rid of all of this stuff. Boom. We're going to leave our page title. And then we're going to come down here. And because the base layout incorporates the HTML container, the header, the body tag containers, all we need is to reference this base layout that we've imported and stuff our new content inside there. So let's come over here, moment of truth. Paste. Oh, this frightens me. There we go. My awesome blog subtitle. Let's come over here, save that guy, and then the instructions say preview your page to notice what did or did not change. Come over to the home page. Nothing changed. Nothing changed at all. Just like they said. Whoops. Haha. Here we go. So we have to add a slot element to base layout.astro just above the footer component. So here's base layout. Just above the footer, we need to add slot. Save that. Save. And let's see if it changed. My awesome blog subtitle. Excellent. So now we can fix what we broke. Because I don't want it to just say my awesome blog subtitle and lose all of this stuff when I finally remove it. So I'm going to grab all of this. We're going to cut that. Pop that, whoops, out. I'm going to come over here and drop it in here. And then I've got a bunch of excessive white space. We'll highlight it all and shift tab it out. Hey there, welcome to the home page. And you know, if I say hey there, I should change it to hello there and then put in the General Grievous GIF. GIF. It's a GIF. Welcome to equals quotation. If I'm going to be that developer dad, did I name the style right? I created a custom style. I had not. And I also didn't save everything correctly. Haha. All right. Let's add some quotation marks here. And we'll just HR. Because what if I don't have a dad joke right at the top of the home page? Can I even call myself that developer dad? Much better. Okay. And we've got some double quotation marks over here because IntelliSense gets a little silly sometimes. All right, good. So what we've done is we've moved all of this common stuff that has to be on each and every page in our website out to this base layout. And now that means for our actual pages, all we need to do is put the content for those pages here inside these base layout tags. And that is much, much, much more convenient than having to write all of this goop every darn time. I quite like that. So a question I'm asking myself is, I'm going to get rid of this. We're going to do that. Now, just for laughs, purely for science, let's grab this. And I want to move this over to here. I'm kind of moving ahead in the tutorial, I suspect. Can I comment this out? Now, let's see what happens. I bet I broke stuff. Oh, I broke stuff real good. What that suggests is I'm going to empty string that. Come over here. I'm going to save it and see. Okay, so that developerdad.com, that's empty. All right, I'm going to undo all of that stuff that I just did. Put it back. We're going to rip all of these changes out. And we are going to do what I said I need to do on Friday and just trust the process. Let's make sure our site is back to looking okay. You know what? That HR looks not great. I don't like it. That's better. I like it. That's much, much better. Articles and about me. We'll get back to fixing up the styling because we've got some in-page styling on about me. We'll rip that out shortly. No, you know what? Let's just do it now because that's going to keep bugging me. Get rid of those. Goodbye. These we no longer need. Goodbye. Save. We don't need a breakpoint there. And let's go back and make sure. Good. Things are a little bit more consistent now. All right. That's better. We're no longer bouncing around horizontally. Our styles are now consistent for our page headers. We're good. All right, back to trusting the process. Check the browser preview again. Added a slot. We're good. Okay, and as we discovered, that slot element lets us inject or slot in child content written between the opening and closing component tags to any component file. All right. Pass page-specific values as props. And this is where I think we're going to get to modularize that page title. So let us go over to index. Here we are, const page title. We're going to add a parameter to this component call. I'm just going to go ahead and grab this right from the tutorial. Even though I don't like copying and pasting. And we're going to pass in because it's a global. I has a feeling. Well, let's. Okay. Now, over on base layout, we have to update the component that we're calling into via astro.props. Okay, const page title equals astro props. Let's come over here. I'm just going to come back and copy, even though I don't like copying and pasting. We're going to pop this in here. Following the instructions. Check your browser preview. Okay, so we're calling this one page title. And I need to get rid of the underscore because I don't want to use this module level variable anymore. So let's get rid of that. Save. And H1, the injected page title is, and this is just a test string. I'm just adding this to the layout to test and see if our change, so that when we call the base layout component, passing the page title equals this module level variable, it's going to render. So we should get 2 headers when we take a look at our preview. Everything saved? Yep. The injected page title is home. Okay, we know that worked. Great. Let's see what the next instruction is before I try jumping ahead and making mistakes that I don't have to make again. So we'll use our layout everywhere. Check your browser preview to verify that your page title has not changed. It has the same value but is now being rendered dynamically. And now each individual page can specify its own title to the layout. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, it says try it yourself, use your layout everywhere. We're going to go ahead and do that, but first I'm going to grab this and I'm going to cut it from here. And I'm going to come over here to where we added our test page title. I'm going to paste it and use the provided component parameter. There we go. Save. Come over here. We'll save this. We'll take a look. I don't think we need the period on that because it's a sentence fragment, not a sentence. So, you know what? Let's do this applying the layout first. We'll leave that period in there as a way to demonstrate what we are trying to do. So we're going to need this. Let's do about. We're going to leave the page level underscore page title. Let's grab this stuff, copy that into my buffer, rip all of that out, paste that down here temporarily because I need to come over here and grab this. I'm going to paste this right at the top. Give ourselves a little white space. Copy that. Get rid of that extra. Paste it in here. And I think this is good. All right. Let's make sure that worked before we move on to the next feature. That developerdad.com-about me, period. Here's the page content. Happy, happy. Here's our footer. All of these things actually go to a place. Excuse me. Home articles about. Let's go home. Home articles about. Excellent. Good, good, good. And now let's go to the articles page. I'm going to come back to index. grab our import, replace all this stuff, come down here, base layout, page title equals, am I doing that right? Okay, so we use string interpolation. So it's not that. We could do Mickey Mouse. Let's not use Mickey Mouse. Copyrighted mouse. Oh, we can use Mickey Mouse. Ha! Mickey Mouse. And we'll grab the actual content. Paste. And then we'll 86 all that stuff. Save. All right, so here we're passing a string literal into that page title. Excuse me. So let's go to the About page. And it says, About Me. Ha! Oh, because I did that on the Articles page. And there's Mickey Mouse. Now, let's change that before I get a nasty gram from the company with very expensive lawyers. Page title. We'll change that to inject our page level variable underscore page title. And this is a great time to talk about a couple of things. Number one is coding style and variable naming. You will notice my personal coding style that I've kind of adopted and digested from other published coding styles. I tend to use an underscore as a prefix for variables that are meant to exist at the module scope. So, and that helps me in a number of ways. Number one, when I'm down in the code and I see that a variable has an underscore at the start, I know that the value of that variable, when it changes, is going to apply to every time it's used on my page. I also know that those variables are available anywhere in the code for this page or this class or this module that I'm writing. This is a function parameter. And when we're using, or when we create a base layout with this parameter, we're passing this variable as a parameter. Function parameters use camel case, which is lowercase first letter, and then uppercase first letter of each word in the variable name. For module level, we use camel case as well, but we add that underscore. And then for elements, properties, etc., within, say, a code file or component names, we'll use Pascal case. So I'm just going to very quickly, camel case is used for variable names that can only be used within the local scope. underscore camel case is used for variables that are available throughout the current HTML page. Object-oriented class or module. And when I say OO class, I'm talking about languages like JavaScript, C#, Java, C++. I think Python uses the same concepts. Basically, any language that is considered to be object-oriented, you've got the idea of variable scope. And I like to use underscore camel case to denote that something is class-wide. Then we get SpongeBob case is used to poke fun at the Scrum Master and product owner. Now, I don't want this content sitting here inside my articles page, but that's funny. So I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to put it in post 2MD. And let's just add common coding standards for variable naming. There, we saved that. Okay, let's do some testing. Gotta save everything. Here's home, that developerdad.com -home articles period -about or -about me period. I don't like that period. Remember, I said we were going to get rid of it, but I was going to wait to get rid of it until I could lose it in one place. That being in our handy dandy layout file. So that right there is a solid demonstration of the power of componentization. When we want something to change the exact same way every place that it's used, let's throw it into a component. Or in .NET speak, a class, or what have you. Or I should say object-oriented speak, we would throw it into a class or a module or whatever the language you're using uses for that terminology. Okay, so that was a success. We've used our layout elsewhere. We've applied it to every page on the site. And let's test our knowledge. An astrocomponent.astro file can function as a page, UI component, layout, all of the above. To display a page title on the page, you can use a standard HTML element with static text. Use a standard element on the page referring to a variable. That is also correct. Use a layout component on the page, passing the title as a component attribute. All of the above, because Astro lets us use plain HTML or juice it up with some scripting components. Information could be passed from one component to another by importing a UI component and rendering it in the template of another component. Yes. Passing props where it's rendered via a component attribute. Also correct. Sending HTML content to be rendered inside correct, all of the above, because we can do component-based design. Boop. All right. I can create an Astro layout component within a slot. I can send page-specific properties to a layout. Also correct. This afternoon, because we're coming up to the bottom of the hour, and I should do my source control rituals and so on and test to make sure that our changes make it over to the live website. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, we are going to continue with this and create and pass data to a custom blog layout. And I hope that means, and I promise I won't read ahead in the book, we're doing this together. I hope that means we're going to be able to start getting some styling on these articles. I haven't added any real content to these articles yet because they're not behaving the way I want them to. Oh, I should change the spelling. I should definitely fix the spelling on that before I go much further. Common oding. Coding. There we go. All right. Let's pop back out and make sure that took effect. Good. SpongeBob case is used to poke fun at the Scrum Master and product owner. Yes, absolutely. All right. So I haven't added any actual real article content to these blog posts yet because A, they ugly, and we haven't gotten into styling them yet. And B, we want to basically, I think this afternoon's unit is going to be taking the content out of those markdown files and passing them into a layout file so that they appear with some styling and so that we also get our navigation panel back so that we don't have to hit the back button to get back to the regular site. It's one of those infrastructure, make sure the foundation is poured before you think about what color the curtains are going to be, eat your vegetables before you go for the cake kind of things. So let's hold off until this afternoon. For now, we will add a commit message that says, created a common base page layout, applied it to the regular site pages, and tested to make sure it behaved as expected. Now, when we add a new page to the site, we can use the base layout component to save ourselves a boatload of repetitive typing. Let's commit it. We'll sync our changes. Yep, we are going to push to main. That's another rule of mine that I am willfully breaking because we are in the beginning stages of building out that developer dad. It's okay to push to main when you're just getting started. Once you've got your project to the place where you want it to be, where it's basically production and you're just doing changes for maintenance or extension, you're going to want to go into your GitHub repository and disallow direct commits to the main branch. And when people need to make changes, what you need to do is you need to create a new branch of code, name it feature or bug fix / short description of what you're doing, and then you make your changes safely on there and push them up. When you're done, you'll do a pull request, which will merge all of the changes that you've made on your branch into that main branch. And that keeps your changes isolated and prevents them from impacting the version of the code base that is actually running and available to the rest of the world. Our build and deploy job has finished, so rather than use the main Safari browser, I'm going to load up my simulated iPhone and we'll refresh. And here we are, that developerdad.com-home. I'm confused about my code. Hey, confused about your code? I'm that developer dad. And we can scroll down and we see all the things. And we can make sure. I really need to do something about these headers. They're too big. About me. Oh, I think articles has some of its own independent styling, but oh no, because we're using the layouts, it's not doing that. All right, we have some iteration to do here for the mobile experience. And I am not going to tackle that this afternoon because I want to get these blog posts behaving themselves. But that is going to absolutely be a note for future work. In fact, I think page headers are visually unpleasant on mobile. When viewing that developerdad.com on a mobile device, page headings look awful. Let's fix this when we can. Bam. And is this an issue or is it a draft? I'm going to assign myself. There we go. No milestone. Create a branch. All right. Labels, none yet. I'm going to say this is, let's call it a bug. That's a bug. And projects, I haven't created a project for this thing, so let's not worry about it. But when we do get to it, after we've gotten the rest of the page infrastructure in place, this looks like a perfect way to demonstrate how we would approach fixing a bug or an issue or adding a feature when we're working in a quote-unquote real-world scenario. So, yes, I'm just going to leave this as... I have to edit this because I noticed that I spelled things wrong. Spelling absolutely matters. This looks like a perfect way to talk about and work through and demonstrate the process of identifying an issue in our code bases and going through the activity of repairing and deploying those the fixes to those issues. So we'll come back to this at a later date. This afternoon, we are going to pick up in the tutorial where we leave off by creating and passing data to a custom blog layout. And that's this morning's stream. I'm that developer dad. Thank you to the people that joined me and chatted it. Jeremy, take care of your ankle, dude. Injuries like that are never pleasant. 9 of 12, I will see you in the living room. Take care, everybody. I'll see you this afternoon.